Impossible. I can't believe I'm going to be the mother of a handicapped person. On a holiday morning, I was enjoying a leisurely breakfast with my husband. Suddenly my sister brought her daughter, and for some reason she was unfaithful and extremely furious. No, I don't understand. What all of a sudden in the morning? Sis, raising a handicapped person takes a lot of patience. I'm at my wit's end. The sister's daughter stood quietly, crying at her mother's outburst. I will give this one to you who can't have children. Aren't you and a handicapped person who can't have children a perfect match? Don't say that. I immediately refuted her, but my sister left as if to run away. My niece was 7 years old, I believe. She probably couldn't even comprehend what was going on right now. Are you okay? Yay! Now I'm free. What? Susanna Burton, pseudonym, 30-something story. My name is Susanna Burton and I am in my 30s. I have been married for 5 years to my husband, Aaron, whom I met at work, but we have yet to have children. We both love children, and ever since we were dating, we always talked about how we wanted to have children when we got married someday. But reality is cruel. We were not able to have children as we had hoped. After talking with Aaron, we decided that we just couldn't give up on having children of our own and decided to start fertility treatments. We hoped to have just one child, no matter how much it would cost. So we went to the clinic together. However, the doctor told us that our chances of having a child were extremely low. But on the contrary, we were determined. We had done all we could do. All I want is to be with you. Let's enjoy life together. He also encouraged me by saying so. Even if we were not blessed with children in the future, we could enjoy our life together as a couple. One day, when I returned to my parents' house, my sister Caroline had also returned at the same time. She had been popular since she was a student because of her pretty looks and her good sense of humor, and now she was married and had a husband named Seth. I hadn't seen her in a while, and she was dressed in high brands. She proudly told me that Seth has taken over his parents' company and is the president. By the way, she makes fun of the fact that my husband is an ordinary company employee, and she also demeans me. My husband is now the president of the company? Well, he was always an elite. Compared to that, yours. Your husband is amazing, isn't he? But Aaron also works very hard and is very kind to me. You've always been like that, and that's why you can't do anything. I was always bothered inside, while I was appropriately malleable. It was a good thing I didn't talk back to her. By the way, I heard that you are a defective product who can't even have children. You're a useless woman, aren't you? She said mockingly while laughing at me. Caroline has always disliked me anyway. She always tries to outdo me and mount me, which frankly tires me out. She doesn't say such terrible things to me in front of my parents either. She does whatever she wants when her parents are not around. I was deeply offended by her ridicule of my infertility and left my parents' house. Why should I be talked about like that? How much did she think I had suffered because I could not have children? After that, she often pointed out to me how difficult it was for me to have children. When she meets with me, she brags about having a child herself. Even though I have always thought I understood her bad character, I could not tolerate her ridicule of my sensitive issues. She makes fun of me every time I see her like this, and her attitude gets worse and worse. Then we have no choice but to distance ourselves from her. I began to be careful not to see her as much as possible. Then one day on a holiday, many months later, the intercom suddenly rang. Suddenly, the intercom rang. My husband was off today, and he was out shopping. I was alone, doing the housework. When Aaron comes home, maybe we can go out somewhere together. I was washing dishes while thinking about that. I wondered what in the world was going on in the morning, and when I checked, to my surprise, it was Caroline. It's been a while since I've been away from here. I haven't seen her for a long time. And yet, it was her coming to me. Her face on the intercom screen was clearly unhappy, and she was standing there in front of the front door. I wonder what she wants, even though I don't want to see her. I reluctantly open the front door. She is standing in front of me with a sullen expression on her face. It's been a long time. Oh, it's so unusual to see you here with Natalie. We don't want this handicapped person in our house. Her high-pitched voice rings out. I wonder what she is going to say as soon as she arrives, forcing Natalie, who is standing beside her, toward me. Natalie is her daughter. She is 7 years old, I think. Natalie almost fell over when she was suddenly pushed toward me. What do you mean? You just barged in all of a sudden? I stare at Caroline, who is confused and pushes the child away. She takes one look at Natalie, who is sobbing in my arms, and sighs. She is so annoying. A handicapped person who can't even speak properly doesn't deserve to be in our house. How can you use such a violent word as handicapped to your own daughter? I was at a loss for words. What do you mean she can't speak? It means exactly what it means. It's a pain in the ass. Caroline sighs heavily. You know, being a parent of a handicapped person is very, very hard. I can't do it anymore. You can't have children, so I'm going to give you one. What? You can't have children and a handicapped person is a perfect match. Get along with each other. After saying what she wanted to say as much as she wanted, she got into her car and drove away without making eye contact with her daughter. I was so stunned by what had happened that all I could do was hug Natalie. I came to my senses and looked around. I heard my sister's shrill voice echoing throughout the morning. The neighbors might come to see what was going on. I hurriedly took Natalie by the hand and led her into the house. I lock the front door and turn around. Just as I am about to comfort Natalie. Yay! Now I'm free. Natalie, having entered the house and convinced that her mother has returned, exclaims with joy. I had no idea what was going on and decided to listen to her story in the living room. It seems that Natalie has been educated very strictly to be an ideal child. She went to different classes every day and sometimes had more than one class in a day. No matter how hard she tried, she never received praise or recognition. If she failed to do as well as she wanted, she was beaten and yelled at. When she asked for help, her father was always at work, and her paternal grandparents did not pay attention to their female grandchild. Then a younger brother was born, and Natalie lost all positive attention to him. She no longer felt any affection for him, and was treated as if he was an obstacle. She was so afraid of being scolded that she finally stopped speaking in front of her mother, who mistakenly thought she had lost her ability to speak and brought her to me in a rage. When I made mistakes, they would scold me and yell at me. They wouldn't even let me eat. Natalie tells her story with a downcast look on her face. Upon closer inspection, She is emaciated and has scars on her arms and legs. It is too dangerous to send her back to her sister's house now that I have heard such a story. I let her eat her dinner for the time being. Natalie is engrossed in eating her meal. Perhaps this is the first satisfying meal she has had in a long time. How could she not give her growing child enough to eat? I think to myself as I watch her. I am the only one she can rely on right now. I was ready. Aaron returns a little later and is surprised to see Natalie at home. I immediately told him what had happened. I then told him that I wanted to take Natalie in. He too was displeased with my sister and her husband's inability to take care of their own child. He agreed to let Natalie be our child. We made an appointment later that day to meet with my sister and her husband and decided to officially adopt Natalie. Seth, too, seemed to be in the mood that as long as he had a good son, he was fine with Natalie. Seth was also in no way concerned about Natalie. Seth's parents also said that they would be better off without a girl. The adoption process was completed in no time at all. We were relieved and determined to make Natalie happy. From now on, we wanted Natalie to live a life of freedom. We would give her all the love we could, as if she were a real child. We would encourage and support her in whatever she wanted to do. After that, Natalie grew up with a carefree spirit. A few years later, she went to law school at a well-known university. We celebrated the fruit of her diligent efforts as if it were our own. One Sunday, while we were relaxing as a family, my sister and her husband suddenly barged into my house. Without even saying hello to us, they clamored for Natalie's return. I thought back to that time. The sister and her husband came to my house without permission and abandoned my little Natalie as if she were an object. They must have heard somewhere that Natalie had gone to a prestigious university, even though they had never heard from her before. I can't believe they would say that now. Apparently, Natalie's younger brother, who they thought was brilliant, had dropped out of high school. Perhaps they was strictly doing the same kind of intrusive education that they used to do to Natalie in the past. If they were tied down so tightly, any child would lose motivation for everything, not just studying. I had originally heard that Natalie's brother was a recluse and had refused to go to school in middle school. We don't want that socially inept child in our house. Natalie, come home. Upon learning that Natalie had been admitted to a difficult university, my sister and her husband came to pick her up. How could they come to pick up their daughter, whom they once called handicapped and discarded, for their own convenience? Children are not their parents' property or toys. I was deeply offended by their unmanageable behavior. Since that moment when we decided to raise Natalie as our own child, we had given her our wholehearted love. Aaron, who had raised her as his own daughter, also covered Natalie's back and refused to let her go. The two of them continued to fuss at the door that they were Natalie's parents. They were no longer getting anywhere, and just when I thought they were. My parents are Aaron and Susanna. You are not my parents. Natalie stared at my sister and her husband with a serious look in her eyes. When she clearly refused, the sister and her husband left, leaving her with the discarded words that they would take legal action. Later that day, the sister and her husband hired a lawyer to try to pretend that Natalie's adoption had never happened. However, at that time we had followed the official procedure and adopted Natalie. Therefore, they could not dissolve the adoption. In addition, Natalie, who was 7 years old at the time, still bore the scars of violence that we called discipline, and she was much thinner than the norm. I have a medical certificate in my possession that states that she was probably abused. I showed the medical certificate to my sister and her husband, who were going to court, and asked them if they were still going to court. Seth, who had taken over his parents' company and was now the president, declined to go to trial for fear of bad publicity. They are the kind of couple who would even abandon their own child out of concern for the world. There was no way they could go to court with the evidence of their abuse in front of them. But somewhere along the way, a rumor began to circulate that Natalie, Seth's eldest daughter, had been adopted, as if she had been abused and abandoned. The rumor spread quickly, and the stock price of Seth's company dropped dramatically. Soon after, Seth was removed from his position as president of the company in order to take responsibility for his actions. My sister and her husband then disappeared. Natalie's younger brother, who was left alone, was taken in by Seth's relatives, passed his tests, and attended college. Natalie successfully graduated from college and got a job at the company she wanted. She married a man she met at work. We were sad to see her go, but wished her a long and happy life as she left our home with her husband and wife. What did you think of this story? Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.